Good news for Africa. The U.S. is expected to extend the African Growth and Opportunity Act. The head of a U.S. advocacy group resigns her post amid a firestorm of controversy. And music is bridging differences between Jews and Arabs in Israeli cities. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. The United States is expected to extend the African Growth and Opportunity Act, known as AGOA, for another 10 years. The House of Representatives and the Senate have both passed versions of the bill. However, President Barack Obama can only sign it after the two houses work out differences between the two versions. VOA's Mariama Diallo tells us more.
The trade provision that allows thousands of products from African countries to enter the U.S. tax-free was approved by the House of Representatives in a 397-32 vote.
The motion is adopted without objection.
Fred Oladende is the chairman of the U.S.-based AGOA civil society organization network.
I think it allows all of the stakeholders to see AGOA as a vehicle for long-term economic development.
Oladende says to use AGOA as a tool for development, African countries have to look beyond the energy, apparel, and textile sectors. A regional approach for other primary products like mangoes, for example, is a must.
So a lot of mangoes out of Mali, but couldn't come in because of the stringent sanitary and phytosanitary requirements. We want to meet those requirements, but even when we have met those requirements, we also want to see how we could take those mangoes, add value to it, where we can can them, where we can pasteurize them.
The African Diplomatic Corps in Washington strongly supports renewal, but Senegalese ambassador to the U.S., Babacar Diagne, says more changes are needed to get the full benefit of AGOA.
I must say I'm still a little bit frustrated. You know what? About 39 eligible countries, just 7 or 8 are taking profit from AGOA. So we have to fight for the renewal, of course, but we also have to put a special focus on training business people in our countries to, let's say, make them meet the criteria required to profit from AGOA.
Ivory Coast has been in and out of AGOA, exporting cocoa, coffee, cashews, and textile apparel to the U.S. Its ambassador, Dauda Jabate, says he hopes the renewal will expand exports to the U.S.
To be frank, we want our trade capacity to be increased because, everybody is saying, oh, AGOA, but most of the time, some country cannot make a huge exploitation of this opportunity that has been given to them.
Florizel Leiser, the U.S. Assistant Trade Representative for Africa, recently said AGOA has had successes, but can do more.
There's been a tripling of non-oil exports to the United States. It's created a lot of jobs. We've seen investment go into Africa. But at the same time, if you look at how much came into the United States in non-oil exports last year, it's like $4.9 billion. That's it, from all of sub-Saharan Africa.
She said the hope is that in the next decade, AGOA will be used to its full potential so that it can help Africa maximize development. In Washington, Mariama Diallo, VOA News.
Well, the International Monetary Fund says it will provide $18 million to support Malawi's development programs after its government promised to tackle the corruption of aid by donors. Donors have withheld direct aid to Malawi for more than a year over a corruption scandal in which top government officials siphoned millions of public funds. However, a new World Bank report shows that the country's economy is growing at a moderate pace. For more on the political and economic developments in Malawi, I'm joined by Necton Muhura, the Malawi ambassador to the U.S. Mr. Ambassador, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Now, first, this financial scandal has actually kind of stuck with the country for quite a number of months. What kind of damage has it done to the country?
Of course, it has done damage to donor confidence. But the new government of Professor Peter Mutharika is doing quite a lot in order to regain donor confidence. And one of the things that the new government is doing is embark on public sector reforms and reforms in public sector public finance management. And the president launched 2 programs in that respect. And also the country is very, very committed to prosecuting those that took public funds. I can tell you, for instance, that just yesterday, the largest of the culprits was convicted by a court in Zomba, Malawi, and is going to be sentenced to jail.
That's the guy in the wheelchair, the guy who's been...
Yes, yes, it is. Yes.
So there's action actually taking place there. But now the confidence I think you're displaying also manifests itself in the fact that the country is going to host an investment forum sometime this month. Tell us a little bit about how this idea came about.
The idea came about because Malawi would like to depend more on investment and trade rather than donor aid for its development and the welfare of its people. And therefore, it has launched a program for attracting investment. One of the ways it has done so is to produce a compendium of investment projects, which we're inviting investors to come and look at and see if they can assist in that respect.
Now, I don't have any kind of video to show, but can you in any way kind of try to give us an idea of what investment opportunities exist in Malawi as we speak?
Malawi has lots of investment opportunities, but we are particularly focusing in areas of energy, generation, mining, tourism, agriculture, including agro-industries, processing of agricultural products, as well as ICT and infrastructure development.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're in a very, very competitive market of attracting investors.
Sure.
Tell me, why would an investor want to come to Malawi?
An investor would want to come to Malawi because Malawi is projected to have a very good GDP growth this year of about 6%. Malawi also will give an investor access to lots of markets, like the SADC market with 200 million people, the SADC, the COMESA market, which will give you 300 million people. But Malawi also has access to the American market through AGOA, which we hope is going to be renewed very soon. Malawi also has access to duty-free status in Europe, under the Lome Convention, and therefore there are opportunities for products from Malawi to get to various markets across the globe.
Many international or foreign investors are also looking at things like infrastructure. They're looking at power, the power sector.
Yes.
And those are areas that have been problematic. I know Malawi has been very busy trying to construct roads. But how do things look like for somebody who's looking in from outside?
True, but as far as power is concerned, we as a country have embarked on a project to improve power supply. In fact, the Millennium Challenge Corporation is assisting Malawi in that respect. There's a 5-year program to improve the energy sector. As far as transport is concerned, there's a railway line that is being constructed to the eastern coast in Mozambique. And we are also embarking on a project to build a world inland port in Nsanje, which should assist with transportation problems that we may have. But we are looking and we're doing something about it.
How about the bureaucracy? How quickly can a person get in the country, register business, and start working?
Historically, we had some challenges in that respect, but starting from last year, the government has set up what we call a one-stop shop with the Malawi Investment and Trade Center, where all the government agencies that are needed to register a business and start operating a business will be dealt with in one building, and therefore we hope that that will assist with the bureaucracy. But also, more importantly, we believe that facility should be able to allow someone to do business, start and do business within 1 week.
When is this investment forum taking place?
The investment forum is taking place on June 29th and 30th in the capital, Lilongwe. It will be opened by the president and attended by a number of international companies, both from Africa, from Asia, Europe, and the United States.
Very quickly, if there's one thing about Malawi you wish to make clear that has perhaps been mispresented, what is that?
Well, I think Malawi tends to be seen as a country that doesn't have a market. But the market is there, like I said before. But also, more importantly, Malawi is a very safe country. Malawi has historically been very peaceful, and therefore investments face no danger at all.
Okay.
But more importantly, Malawi is a signatory to a number of investment treaties that protect investments that are in Malawi.
The investors will be coming down there, hopefully.
I hope
see
so.
for themselves.
I hope, and we're inviting them.
Ambassador Mahura, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Well, Necton Mahura is the Malawi ambassador to the United States. Now, going over to Europe, U.S. First Lady Michelle Obama has announced new multi-million-dollar program to get more girls into education. On a visit to Britain, which is also taking part in the efforts, Mrs. Obama described the number of girls who don't go to school as a devastating loss for the whole world. VOA's Henry Ridgewell reports from London.
Students at the Mulberry School for Girls in East London gave Michelle Obama a raucous welcome. The US First Lady was treated to singing and dancing displays and hugs from many of the girls. She may be their hero, but Mrs. Obama insisted it was her privilege to meet the students.
And I am beyond thrilled that you are working so hard to complete your education. It is so important.
The US First Lady is in Britain to promote her Let Girls Learn initiative. She spoke with passion about the challenges girls face around the world.
I just think about how much we're losing when we don't tap into that energy. That there's 62 million girls out there who are just as bright, just as impactful potentially, just as passionate, but who have no voice, no opportunity, no resources to develop into the young women that you all will be.
She also compared the students' East London neighbourhood to her own working-class childhood on the south side of Chicago. The US First Lady came to this school in one of the poorest parts of the British capital to see the progress made in education here. Now, Michelle Obama hopes to build momentum worldwide and get millions more girls into education. She announced plans for around $200 million in programs funded by the United States and Britain to promote girls' education worldwide. The first projects will help 450,000 children in the Democratic Republic of Congo get a primary school education. Sierra Leone and Liberia will also benefit. Girls' education is key to tackling other challenges like poverty and maternal health, says Rocco Bloom of the charity Plan International UK.
Girls have incredible potential to be able to contribute to their economy, to contribute to the wealth of communities, but are often prevented from progressing because in many parts of the world there is gender inequality that prevents girls from being able to access school.
The recent focus on girls' education by global figures like Michelle Obama and Malala Yousafzai has driven the issue up the political agenda worldwide.
If you look back at previous years, education was supported regardless of gender, and that meant that despite there being far fewer girls in school, that wasn't really picked up by donors, by development organisations. So the fact that we see an understanding internationally that girls really do face these additional challenges and those challenges are being tackled is a very positive thing.
Campaigners say the battle to get more girls in school will require a change in attitudes as well as investment. Michelle Obama says she will spend the rest of her time as US First Lady fighting for that cause. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
Well, in the United States, a woman resigns from a top position in a racial controversy. Here's Esther Githuiwat with the details.
Yes, amid a firestorm of controversy, the head of a U.S. advocacy group defending the rights of African Americans has resigned her post. The move came after she was outed by her parents, who said that she is not black. As she has claimed, Rachel Dolezal has been the head of a local NAACP chapter in Washington state for about 6 months, after years of posing as a black woman. VOA's Latisa Hoke tells us more.
The controversy started last week when a journalist asked Dolezal if her parents were white, and she refused to answer. But her white parents confirmed that she is their biological daughter and produced photos of Rachel as a blonde teenager with white skin and freckled face.
We raised our children, tell the truth. That's always the best.
Larry and Ruth Ann Dolezal have adopted some African American children. Rachel's adoptive brothers say she changed her looks gradually.
It started out with the hair, and then she'd have, probably a little darker tan.
She basically is totally changed her skin color.
Rachel Dolezal was married to a black man, and she graduated from historically black Howard University in Washington, D.C., where she reportedly complained that she was the subject of discrimination as a white woman. Greg Carr, the school's head of Afro-American Studies, told VOA that Dolezal's case raises some serious questions about U.S. racial issues.
If she sued the university on racial discrimination, she's availing herself of federal law that has been interpreted by a court to, in fact, reinforce, in some ways, white privilege. She's in a majority black institution, so she can sue because she's been discriminated against by her race. That's legally acceptable. Now, is it politically and socially acceptable? Well, that's a different question, and that's the one we're struggling with in this country.
Carr says Dolezal's case raises the question of who is white and who is black in the United States, and why in 2015 it still matters. When the scandal broke, the NAACP, a black advocacy organization founded in 1908 by a group of white people, stood behind her.
It's important for us to focus on not reality TV, but to focus on real issues, real challenges.
And indeed, the racial issue in the United States remains a challenge. Zlatica Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
Very interesting story, Vincent. Back to you.
Thank you, Esther. Indeed interesting. Now, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, we'll have more news in a moment, so stay with us. Well, turning to the European migrant crisis, France, Italy and Germany have agreed to join forces to identify migrants arriving by sea and to swiftly relocate them across the European Union if they qualify for asylum. Those whose claims are rejected will be returned to their home countries. Now, the arrival of thousands of migrants who make perilous Mediterranean crossings from Libya is straining the resources of Italy and Greece and raised tensions with northern European states that are the destinations of many migrants. At the Vatican on Wednesday, Pope Francis called for respect for migrants and suggested that people and institutions who close doors to them should seek forgiveness from God.
I encourage the work of all those who bring their help and I hope that the international community will act in a harmonious and effective way to prevent the causes of forced migration.
Well, the Pope said those seeking refuge are seeking a home where they can live without fear. Well, for more on the crisis, Itaye Viriri, a spokesperson for the International Organization of Migration, joins us live via Skype from Geneva, Switzerland. Mr. Viriri, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you very much.
Now, this crisis has been ongoing. It's kind of moving in slow motion. But first, give us a take of the talks that have been ongoing in Europe. And as we mentioned, the position taken by European ministers yesterday.
So basically, I mean, after the tragedy where we saw, very sadly, more than 800 people dying in the Mediterranean around the 18th of April, the European Union was forced into action to try and come up with ways of avoiding these kind of tragedies. And they first came up with a 10-point plan, which was later sort of affirmed when they gave specifics in terms of, for example, improving the sea and rescue efforts, and also trying to see how the numbers of refugees could be spread across the European Union.
Yeah.
What we see now is the struggle to actually get those proposals to actually get them into tangible action. So right now, the difficulty that we're seeing, especially with the meeting today and in recent days, is that some countries are not willing to take in a quota of those resettled refugees. So, for example, some of the Eastern European countries are saying that they do not think they can handle those kind of numbers. You also have within the European Union countries like the UK, Denmark and Ireland who are not part of this kind of arrangement. So already we are seeing those kind of splits that certainly are putting more pressure on Italy and Greece, which are the two countries that have been getting most of these migrants who are trying to get into Europe.
And talking about the migrants' source, I mean, they're coming from Africa. What are you hearing from the African Union, for example? What is their plan here?
Well, we were hopeful that the recent African Union summit in Johannesburg would have had this as the key topic of discussion. But obviously, as we all know, the summit was somewhat hijacked by the issue of the Sudanese president and the ICC. What we are saying, though, is that, and actually echoing what President Zuma of South Africa has said himself during the summit, that the responsibility, a certain degree of responsibility, does lie on the on the African leaders, where most of these people are coming from, because one, there's either persecution, there are no options for young people who want to get jobs, education. So he has said himself, and I think even on your website you have the story there where he says the blame also should lie on the leaders. But we are expecting that the African Union actually does more than it is doing now. That this should be
we'll be on the lookout for this. Itaye Viriri, thank you very much for joining us today. Well, Itaye Viriri is a spokesman for the International Organization of Migration. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Classical music in the Israeli cities of Nazareth and Jaffa brings together Jews and Arabs. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. In Tunisia, rush hour train hits vehicle and derails, killing 18 and injuring over 90 people. In Zimbabwe, authorities begin process of demonetizing the Zimbabwean dollar, switching fully to the US dollar. In South Africa, leaders of the African Union Summit call for greater gender equality and women empowerment across the continent. In Burundi, refugees continue to flee to neighboring countries as political unrest rages on. Finally, Mozambique commemorates 55th anniversary of massacre that ignited its liberation struggle from Portugal. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back. A project based in the Israeli cities of Nazareth and Jaffa is helping to bring together Jews and Arabs and at the same time offering classical music education and training to Palestinian children. Some of the project's musicians came to New York recently to perform. Here's VOA's Caroline Weaver.
These young musicians, 2 Israeli Jews, 2 Israeli Arabs, are in New York to perform as the Polyphony Quartet, an ensemble created by the Israel-based Polyphony Foundation. Revital Bandersky and Shar Hayat are violinists and Jewish. Faris Mashur, a violinist and violist, is a Palestinian Christian, and Mahdi Sadi, a cellist, is Muslim. Polyphony began in 2006 as a small school in Nazareth to bring classical music to Arab children, says founder and music director Nabil Aboud Ashkar.
There was never a real proper opportunities for young Arab children to learn classical music. And this is what we were able to change. We showed everyone that there is no reason why an Arab kid shouldn't be able to play classical music on a high standard.
The school flourished as teachers, most of them Israeli Jews, drove 2 hours from Tel Aviv to teach the children. Out of that, Polyphony was formed to further music education and to bring together young Palestinian classical music students to perform with their Jewish peers. Friendships developed among people who would otherwise have no reason to meet.
Polyphony changed all my thinking and how I see people, how to accept them, and how to be accepted also. Yeah, I never had a Jewish friend before, and I never thought that I will have.
I started looking at things a bit differently, and like Madi said, I never had Arab friends before, and it started all in Polyphony.
For example, rehearsals. We do rehearsals, we start to know each other more, and we start to trust each other in the concerts. In case of somebody do a mistake, we always need somebody to help us, to support. Yeah, so we're more as a family team, family music team.
At one of their New York performances at the Unitarian Church of All Souls, a piece by Mozart was on the program. Among those listening were Polyphony co-founders Craig and Deborah Kogut, whose financial support has expanded the program to train 130 teachers. And this year, Polyphony's music education programs in elementary schools and kindergartens are projected to reach 10,000 other young Israeli Arabs. Carolyn Weaver, VOA News, New York.
Well, and that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us in Washington, have a good night.
I am Sheikh Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
Music is something that brings people together.
Music educates, it motivates, it's a bridge.
Music.
Ali.
On.
VOA.
I am Sheikh Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent.